When the son of a powerful millionaire lay dying in a private hospital, even the best doctors in the country surrendered. Machines beeped faintly. Monitors went silent. Hope was gone. But among the silent crowd of suits and specialists stood a quiet, black woman in a maid's uniform, the family's housemaid, known only as Grace. They told her to step aside. She didn't. No one imagined that this woman, ignored, unseen, and dismissed as the help, would become the reason the young man opened his eyes again. And when the truth of how she saved him finally came out, the entire family's world came crashing down. The Donovans were the kind of family people whispered about. Old money, marble mansions, and magazine-worthy smiles that hid a lifetime of arrogance. Robert Donovan, the father, was one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state. His wife, Eleanor, ran a charity that looked good on camera, but was hollow inside. Their son, Lucas, 25, had grown up surrounded by privilege and protection. He had never known hunger, pain, or struggle until the accident. A late-night crash on a winding mountain road left him in a coma. Doctors said the impact caused massive brain swelling. No medical recovery possible, they said. Eleanor wept on silk pillows. Robert raged at the doctors, and through it all, Grace, their black housemaid, quietly tended to the family, making tea, cleaning rooms, and praying alone in the kitchen at night. Grace had worked for the Donovans for over 15 years. She had raised Lucas when his parents were too busy, fed him when he was sick, and listened when he needed someone to talk to. To Lucas, she was more than staff. She was home. When the doctors said they were ending life support, Grace begged them to wait. "Just one more week," she whispered. Robert snapped. "You're not family, Grace. Stay out of this." But that night, when everyone left, she stayed by Lucas's bedside. She held his hand and whispered prayers from a language the doctors didn't understand, a language she'd learned from her grandmother in the Deep South. For the next 7 nights, Grace refused to leave the hospital room. She brought fresh flowers, replaced the cold towels on his forehead, and sang softly under her breath old hymns from her childhood. The nurses pitied her. The doctors ignored her. The Donovans thought she'd finally lost her mind. But something strange began to happen. The machine started showing subtle changes. Tiny movements in brain activity, a slight increase in pulse rate. The doctors brushed it off as random fluctuation. Grace smiled and whispered, "He's fighting." On the 5th night, as the rain poured outside, a nurse entered the room and froze. Grace was sitting beside Lucas, telling him stories about his childhood. She spoke about the time he'd sneaked cookies before dinner, the way he'd built sandcastles by the lake, and how he used to call her Mama G when he couldn't say Grace. Then, for a split second, Lucas's finger twitched. The nurse gasped. Grace didn't. She simply whispered, "Welcome back, baby." By morning, word had spread. Doctors rushed in, shocked to find improved brain signals. They asked what had changed. Grace didn't answer. She only smiled and wiped her tears. Eleanor arrived later that day, red-eyed and skeptical. "Grace," she said coldly, "I appreciate your concern, but don't give us false hope." Grace simply replied, "Faith isn't false, ma'am. You just have to believe before you see." But that faith would soon be tested. Robert found out Grace had been staying overnight without permission. Furious, he ordered security to remove her. "I pay you to clean floors, not play nurse," he yelled. As 2 guards approached, Lucas's hand suddenly moved again, stronger this time. The monitors spiked. His eyes fluttered. Everyone froze. Grace whispered, "You see? He's not gone." For the first time, Robert Donovan had no words. 3 days later, Lucas opened his eyes. The hospital erupted in disbelief. Doctors called it a miracle, though none could explain it. When he finally regained his voice, his first words weren't "Mom" or "Dad." They were, "Where's Grace?" Eleanor was speechless. Robert left the room. When Grace entered, Lucas smiled weakly. "You never left me," he whispered. Tears streamed down her face. Reporters soon surrounded the hospital, desperate to know how the impossible had happened. But the Donovans tried to control the story, painting it as medical success, not faith or love. Grace refused interviews. That's when Lucas, still in his wheelchair, appeared at a press conference. Cameras flashed. The world waited. "My parents may not say this," he began, "but I will. I'm alive today because of one woman, our housemaid, Grace. While everyone gave up, she prayed, sang, and reminded me I had something to come back to." A stunned silence filled the room. Eleanor tried to hold back tears. Robert looked down, ashamed. Lucas turned to Grace. "You didn't just save my life," he said. "You saved who I was." That single moment went viral. Millions watched a millionaire's son kneel beside a black maid and thank her publicly. Grace didn't want fame or fortune. She only whispered, "To God be the glory." Months later, the Donovans' mansion felt different. The air was lighter, the silence less cold. Lucas walked again, slowly but surely. His recovery amazed medical experts, but he knew the real healing had started long before the machines changed. It began the night Grace refused to give up. Robert and Eleanor changed too. The couple who once looked down on others now spent their days funding medical charities and supporting faith-based caregivers. In Grace's name, Grace continued her work at the house, though now she was treated not as the help, but as part of the family. One morning, Robert called her into the living room. "Grace," he said, "we're establishing a scholarship in your name for young nurses and caregivers from humble backgrounds." She smiled, overwhelmed. "You don't owe me anything, sir." Robert shook his head. "We owe you everything." That weekend, the family gathered at a small church where Grace used to sing. Lucas stood at the pulpit and said, "Sometimes the ones society calls servants are the true healers." As the choir began to sing, Grace looked up toward the light streaming through the stained glass. Her faith finally reflected in the world around her. When the camera fades to black, her voice echoes, "Titles and riches don't make us human. Compassion does." And sometimes, miracles don't come from the top floors of hospitals, but from the quiet prayers whispered by those no one sees. Then, white text appears against a black background. "Never underestimate the hands that serve. They might be the ones that save."